Oh, Frankie, I was looking for you. In the kiosk, did you ever go there?
What?
Weren't you that sent the email about the farmer's market or whatever?
Oh, that was my daughter. That's Frankie.
Oh!
Don't add me.
I'm looking for you.
On my plate.
I'm looking.
Yeah, it was only a few.
Oh,
They
yeah,
had a problem
I
because
was there. That's why.
they had a problem because all the new vendors don't have their permit.
Oh, I was looking for you all over. Like, what's Frank?
So they told them not to come.
So okay,
Oh,
so
you
it
told
wasn't
them
you.
come.
Should have canceled. Should have canceled.
I thought it was you. I was looking for you.
Down ran. But they should be all
Okay, now I know. I was looking for you. I have seen the guy said, I'm just a DJ. You don't know him?
It's Frankie, not Frank.
Yeah, Frankie with I.
Right.
But usually Frank, you want to give me one? You want me to give you an example? Who's running against me? Who's running against me?
Frankie.
So he's Frank.
Presente.
So they call him Frank.
Frank Presente Jr.
How they call him?
Junior?
Yeah. How they call him Frankie, right? So I figured out my mistake. I was still looking for you. Still got love
Oh,
for
so
you.
his son is running, huh? Wow.
All right, let's do this.
Democracy.
About it.
No, that was in the email.
Oh, yeah, no, but the vote was today. I
No,
was gonna go, but I
that
couldn't.
just should, but
Well, we
that
shouldn't be,
shows.
we
that
shouldn't be
shows
talking
strength.
about
Relations is wrong.
that here, you know.
I say, you know, in my eyes, propaganda is
But wait a minute.
No, that's not, that's
Can I
not
just
it.
say something?
That's not,
Listen,
that's not.
listen,
Team, man.
I know, Yvette told me.
but you also said there were other
Okay.
personal
But
things
I
that
don't
were
think it'll
affecting
be all
their
right.
life, and they.
Oh, no, yeah.
So then you have to say that, the whole script, because.
You ready? All right.
All right, let's do this. I got my eyes today.
No, sir.
Frankie. I call you Frankie from now on. With
I'm calling you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you get it right.
Bobby Grollo called me Frankie. Frankie,
I.E.
Bobby always called me Frankie.
I guess this one too, here. Here. Sir. Is that what it is?
The what?
This, two is four, right? You got one,
She's
two,
gonna
four?
put that.
Mine?
Oh, wow. Wow.
That's the thing we went
I
to.
wouldn't listen.
Very good.
I have a pen here.
Here. I'm not doing it.
Yeah, I think that's all I got. All right, let's get this. Show the roll. All right. Got my eyes. Ooh. Still got it. Not getting used to this yet. No, I know, because I hardly use them. Are you recording yet?
No.
Oh, yes, we are. Yes,
Yeah,
we
you're
are.
good, you're good.
Yeah. Okay. The Black and Hispanic. Call the meeting to order. Black and Hispanic Caucus. Attendance. Okay. Let's stay on the colleagues. Call the name. Starting from my right, please.
Evelyn Rodriguez, Ward 4.
Alder Campton Singh, Ward 5.
Carmen Rodriguez, Ward 6.
Gerald Antunes, Ward 12.
Ernie Santiago, Ward 15.
Troy Street, Ward 21. Frank Douglas, Ward 2.
Aisha Walker Myers, Ward 23.
Okay, I recognize, Bozo, South Bozo. I call it South Bozo. I'm gonna read off my name today, I apologize. Okay, so the review of ground rules, we've all been here, before, so we all know them. Treasurer's report. She's not here. Any questions in the treasurer's report? Give you a few minutes to take a look at it. This is not it. Okay. Any questions? No. No questions? Okay, let's move along. Can I get my pencil back? Yeah. Thank you, sir. All right, new business, donation requests.
So attached to the package, you have a couple of emails from people that are interested in trying to get support from you all. Most of them were responding to Alder Ficklin's request for us to be here to talk to those that were not here. If you have any questions.
So this is it's only two of them because we already took care of one, right?
You have the fair one you took care of.
Yeah, and the
You have
CP?
three, it's three that actually, what's her name, is trying to log in. There's the Dixwell
Senior,
Church, seniors program, the Pop Warner 5 and 6 year old football, and the NAACP Youth Council is 4, LG Council, and the boxing program that is off the Texas right now.
but they're not here, right? They're not on the list?
Everybody has, there's an email with the email addresses from everybody.
Yeah, I got here only three. I got the NAACP, the middle school, the Fairhaven, which already we took care of this. And the last one is the Dixwell Senior Planning. That's what we got here.
Okay.
So who's presenting? You are for this? No?
I can present for them if you wish me to. I know that all of them were told that you would be here tonight. I know that Pop Warner is supposed to be coming to the meeting. The Dixwell folk are in the meeting right now, so they knew they could come. Who's the third
So
one?
should we?
And the youth council.
Let's keep over, see, give them a chance to get here. November promise.
Have you?
Yes,
Going down.
come on down.
Please, your name and address for the record, please.
Yes, my name is Patricia Melton. I live at 93 Olive Street, New Haven, Connecticut. Right across the street, more or less. Well, thank you. Good evening. My name is Hispanic, Caucus. I'm the president of New Haven Promise, and I've been here since August of 2012. I wanted to just come and give you an update on what we've been able to achieve in partnership, obviously, with many of our partners in the city, and just to answer any questions that you may have about the program. So, any questions before I start? I have a short presentation, shouldn't take very long. Okay, so most of you have been here longer than 13 years, more or less. How are you all residents? Well, New Haven Promise started 13 years ago, And it was started through a collaboration with John Stefano, Community Foundation, the City of New Haven, to really look at how to increase college going in the school district and to sort of strengthen the school district through a tuition benefit. Initially, that's what it started as, a tuition benefit. So most people know about Promise through the scholarship benefit. It was really big news at the time. I was living in Indianapolis and I was very excited to hear about the program. The thing that you should know is that there are Promise programs all across the country. And the very first Promise program, which I will reference throughout my presentation because we sort of benchmark ourselves in relation to that Promise program, is in Kalamazoo, Michigan. And they've been around for 17 years. And they've spent, I will tell you in a minute, in comparison to what we've spent. But I will also tell you what our impact has been, again, through a collective effort. It hasn't just been Promise, it's a number of things: school change, school reform, and other initiatives throughout the city. Next. So, again, the history is that Dr. Mayo, Promise came in under Dr. Mayo, and it was a big deal because it was really talking about really taking the worry of college affordability. It wasn't that, this benefit would make college free, but it would certainly make it affordable for so many students for whom it was out of reach. And that is the premise all throughout the country of what Promise is about. But the other thing that is very well known in the Promise movement is it's really an economic development engine. And that is because it really looks to keep talent in the city. So as we know, with so many urban cities all throughout the country, you had middle class flight, white flight. And so these programs were really meant to keep a real wide diversity of families in the city, which is what would really strengthen our school district and our economy. So that's sort of the history. So where are we in terms of today? Our Promise Board includes the mayor, the community foundation, all the big employers are on this board. The president of Yale, the president of Yale New Haven Health System, and a number of different college folks. Obviously, they have some vested interests. Today, we've spent $29 million, which is actually, we're one of the smaller Promise programs in terms of the amount of money. So as I said, we benchmark ourselves against Kalamazoo. Kalamazoo has spent $200 million. So they've spent quite a bit more. Kalamazoo is actually a smaller city than our city. We are about twice the size of Kalamazoo, and our school district is more than twice the size of Kalamazoo. So we're much more entrepreneurial, we're much leaner, but we have a much better, bigger impact. So we focus on all public school students, and we're very resident focused. So this is an economic benefit for residents of the city of New Haven. We have currently in college anywhere from 700 to 900 kids in college at any one time. So right now we have about 800 kids in college. And then we have about 1,000 alums who have returned to the city. About 86% of students, these are all residents, they grew up in all your wards and neighborhoods. 86% of those individuals do return to the city. It's that, we can't really take credit. Once again, we're not going to take credit for everything because it's an ecosystem. But when you require folks to go to college in Connecticut, most of those students are going to settle in Connecticut. And then we have been in the talent business since 2014, a year after I came. I have a lot of background in placement development, talent development, and education. So we started at the same time with our career in talent development at the same time that New Haven Works started. So New Haven Works, Young New Haven Hiring Initiative, we all started that component of our programming together. So we've been doing that for quite a bit of time. And we work with 19 public colleges and universities throughout the state. So that's kind of the footprint. Okay, so what are the faces of Promise? No, go back. Okay, what are the faces of Promise? 100% of our folks are from the city, 90% are students of color. 85% attend in-state colleges. Now, someone can attend an out-of-state college. They will not get the tuition benefit, but they will participate in our very robust internship and jobs placement, which is very, all the scholars are very interested in that because that's why they're going to college. 70% are from households under 60,000, and you'll see 70% are first generation, and 43% are, from those neighborhoods of opportunity, or whatever we're calling those neighborhoods that are most challenged with unemployment and underemployment, and about 40% are from households under 30. So remember, this program is really about college affordability. Certainly, we know even a family making $80,000, $90,000 still needs money and help to send their kids to college. So that's, oh, wait, go back. So the other thing is, if you look at the school district enrollment, it's not unusual that with this economic benefit, this tuition benefit, it does keep families in the city. So really the enrollment in the school district just kept going up and up and up. You see it has tapered off, it has fallen even more, obviously with COVID presented some really deep challenges. But I would say that we collectively grew that enrollment, and that's not unusual for promise programs across the country. That's what makes them attractive to so many mayors. Okay. So we've envisioned our program as really focusing on 3 pillars. That's our program. We focus on college access. We do all this work in the schools around creating that college-going culture or post-secondary. I want to clarify, when we say college, we're not just meaning 2-year college, 4-year college. It could be a year certificate program at community college, but we really focus on post-secondary because all of our kids need some sort of post-secondary training if they're going to have a career, type thing. And it could be anything, it could be truck driving school, but we focus, we don't do everything. This is what we focus on, really, strengthening and working with the schools and in the neighborhoods to keep families and students encouraged. And then the scholarship requirements are, more generous. Obviously, if you've lived in the city since kindergarten, you have to have 90% attendance. How do we get to these scholarship requirements? Because those are researched up and down that for a student to be successful, majorly, they really have to be hitting around a 3.0. So when we get down 2.8, 2.9, or 2.7, doesn't mean that that student's not going to be successful, but they're going to need a lot more help and they're at much more risk for dropping out. So that's generally just all this comes from stats. Those 40 hours of community service, that is the pre-career exploration metric. So we are one of the only Promise programs that has this community service, but the reason we have it is because that's how our young folks can learn about LEAP, they can learn about IRIS, they can learn about the Alder Chamber, because they're out there doing all sorts of community service to get involved in the community, and it gets the community involved in them. So it's very important to who we are. Next. And again, our 3 pillars are 2 through and back. It's very simple to remember. And so the through to 2 is all that college access, K through 12, think of it like that. And then once folks go to college, we're very involved with them with starting their career, making sure they're getting paid internships. We do not work with anything that's unpaid. So our young adults get paid for the work that they do. And because it makes a difference in 4 years when they're in their senior year of college, what kind of job they'll be eligible to get when they come out, and experience matters. Experience is king. So we have those 3, the 2, which is K through 8, what we do in the high schools, in the elementary and middle schools. The through is what all the programming we do to support them while they're in college, making sure we're doing transcript analysis, that they're not taking on too much debt. In fact, many of our kids don't have to take on any debt, which is great under this program. And then the and back, which is really focused on now bringing our scholars back to really follow in your footsteps and being involved in the city, buying homes, getting jobs, getting back to their communities and working in their neighborhoods. On this other side, we've already done some data crunching. So you have the periwinkle, which is the smaller bar, and then the deep blue, which is us. And you will see that we are well above the national average in every demographic. And that is not true of other promise programs. That also distinguishes us from Kalamazoo. So you'll see that we're twice as much for Black males, and we've done some things because that demographic has some challenges. And I will go into how the pandemic has really sort of devastated a lot of the progress that we've had. And this is where I think I definitely want to share that we definitely need some intervention here, because we're seeing some huge issues with particularly Black candidates, not Hispanic candidates. I would just share that up front, be very transparent. So, but you'll see, once again, it doesn't matter, white male, Hispanic, Black, whatever, we're well above the national average. And again, I will say that that is due not just to us, it's the collective community that we have here. We have wonderful nonprofits, we have, anchor institutions, we have all the work that the alders do and others. So it really is a collective. This city cares about its young people, and this shows that that is the case. Next. So, we just launched this Back New Haven initiative, and a couple of you came to our little soiree. To tell you the truth, we've been doing this work all along. We were going to do a 10th year anniversary where we're going to talk more about our complete, mature programming, but then the pandemic hit and it was all hands off deck, just trying to keep things afloat. So the Back New Haven, we basically, we're not a cradle to career program, but we are a kindergarten to career program. So this is really focused on, once again, engaging our young folks. The old model is that, the talented were just, creamed off, go to their elite colleges, never to be seen again back in their neighborhoods. I'm one of them. I grew up in Cleveland, Ohio. I would like to be there, but I love it here too. So you all want out, okay? And so there's lots of opportunity here. And so what we do is we compete. We engage our young folks. They love New Haven. Some of them may go away, but most of them really want to be here because they can go to Boston, they can just take the train, they can go to New York, but here they can be superstars. And so there's a lot going on here that they are very interested in. So this really focuses on that, how many scholars have actually settled here, that in fact that our students graduate at a higher rate, they enter the workforce at a higher salary, and that is very critical because of the internship work that we've done with them. They start on their internship journey the summer after their freshman year. So we let them focus on just getting themselves academically situated, and then we do a whole series of career resume writing, interviewing, all of that, and then they usually land their first internship the summer after their freshman year, and then they have an internship until they get to their senior year, and then we focus as we go into that senior year of college on that entry-level job. Next. So here are the programmatic areas that we've been doing, really. Early career awareness, this internship, and now we're starting to reach out to the corporate community, because even though we've been doing this work, we placed roughly about 200 scholars in paid internships. Remember, we have about 700 in college. So we do have a much higher need. That's the area that's really growing and that we really need to raise money to support. So we have internship, and then we have the career and civic launch. So we have a lot of folks who work everywhere. They're here in City Hall, they're everywhere. They're at Yale, they're at Young Haven Health, they're at Leap, they're everywhere. Okay. And then you can see, again, like I said, before the pandemic, we were roughly at 200 scholars in internship placements and jobs all across the city. When the pandemic hit, that fell to 50. So we are not back at that number yet. We're close, but we're not there yet. Our placements, in terms of permanent placements, we're inundated with requests. But once again, our scholars, and this is one of the myths, is that because they're coming out with college degrees, you really don't need to help them. That is not true. I think we've all experienced discrimination and barriers in the workforce, and our young adults are experiencing the same ones. So there's still much work to be done. And again, in the beginning, when we just started, we hardly had any alums, but now we're about 50-50, and we're just gonna have more alums than we're gonna have scholars actually in college. And that's great, because once again, this represents that they're coming here and they really are situated to transform their neighborhoods in the city. Next. So this is kind of an example of our folks. Mark Garcia. He went through 4 internships. He went to the military, and he is now a scientist, associate scientist over at Alexion. We had Lily Ingbeth, our first grad to get into Yale SOM. She's in she's finishing up her first year. We have, Braylon Jones, who is like going on 4 years. It's hard to believe 4 or 5 years over there at Yale New Haven Health. We have 3 people in talent at Yale New Haven Health. We have probably close to 80 kids, young adults who are working over at Yale. So we have quite a footprint. And that's just obviously some. So as we look, here we are in 2022. Like I said, we have about 1,000. In 2024, we have about 1,300. That's by next year. We just minted 160 college grads who just graduated. They don't all graduate in 4 years, but by 6 years, probably about 70% of them will have graduated. And then by 2030, we'll have 2,300 alums. So, and this is just an example of all the different departments. I mean, we really touch any and everything all across the city and even beyond our city and region. Next. And then again, we have started an alumni council. You all obviously know how to SNAE. They're, once again, these young folks are very, very excited. They want to give back. They want to be engaged in many different ways with the city. So they have started an alumni council this winter, and they will be rolling out their own initiatives that they're interested in. And then one of the things that was very clear to me when the pandemic hit is, who rose and was quite comfortable and who wasn't. And a lot of our families were really struggling. But one of the things that I will say is it became very clear that it wasn't just about a job, it's about wealth. Who had homes, who didn't have homes. So as we look at what's going to be the footprint of our young adults who are returning by 2030, it's expected that we'll have 2,000 Promise Scholars, and that over their lifetime here in New Haven, they will contribute $5.7 billion in revenue. That's cars, that's, continuing education, master's, PhD, that's, multiple homes, that, there's a whole bunch of things. We call them scholar dollars. You just look right across there. It's, everything we spend our money on, they're going to be spending their money. So we believe that investment in economic development, sure, bricks and mortar, that's great. But really, if there's nobody in that bricks and mortar, and our young folks are there, they want to be there, they want to be movers and shakers, and we really want to represent them well in terms of making sure that they can assume their rightful heir to the throne in the city, which is them, really. Many of our scholars have already started buying homes. Obviously, since we have a number of scholars at Yale, they're using that home buyer benefit, and at Yale New Haven Health. These are all folks who already have their homes. We just had our second home buyer program, seminar, and we had 50 of our young folks. These are folks who are 25, 26. I don't think I had my first house until I was 40. So, it's pretty amazing, because if they're not spending, if they don't have to spend that money and then come out with $100,000 debt, they can start saving and have a down payment. And there's so many wonderful things in the city, LCI and whatnot, although many of them probably make a little too much money for LCI. But they do have other programs that they can work with. Next. And how we fund it, I would like to bust the myth that we do not need money. As I said before, we have 200 students we work with who are in college, but there are 400, 600 others who would love to have jobs, who would love to have internships. You know, they are facing the same barriers. So Yale funds the scholarship. Yale does not give us any money for our overhead, you know, to run these programs, to actually work with the young folks. Yale New Haven Health primarily is funding us to do all of our work in the schools, and that's a lot. We only have a staff of 5, by the way. And then the community foundation's funding is fairly flexible, so we're able to just, you know, it helps us to fundraise and things like that. But now, I will say, out of the generosity of these 3 funders, we've been able to not really focus on going after money, but building our program to work with our young people, which is why our metrics are the best in the country. There is no other promise program with results that we have, with as little as is spent here, but it goes a long way. So we are now, our whole Back New Haven initiative is about engaging the corporate world and individual donors around our needs and our programming, because again, it was such a big splash, you know, 13 years ago, that many people were, your scholarship program. Well, frankly, we don't need any money for scholarship. That's taken care of. Where we need money is to work with our young people to make sure we develop them as the civic leaders and contributors of the city that is expected of them. And then that's it. Now, what I have brought here is an exhibit. And it's a wonderful, beautiful exhibit, if I must say so. And so what this represents is this is broken down, and we figured it was just easier to break the city down. We always think of the city in terms of neighborhoods and wards, neighborhoods and wards. We can track data. We have the best data system in the country, hands down. We can tell you how many Black males from Hill House have graduated. We can tell you what class they were in. We just have a treasure trove. We wouldn't do that because it's privacy issues, but we can do sort of general. So you can see how much money has actually gone into each neighborhood and ward. I think Al made a copy here that has it by ward and by neighborhood, because we know that the wards go over, maybe some wards have 3 neighborhoods and things like that. So this is really what I think is striking. What's really striking about this, and I want you to definitely take a look, is that you can really see that the number of bachelor's degrees, like the percentage graduation rate, actually is pretty high compared to the national averages. And then the amount of money. The reason we put Pell in there, because Pell is an indicator of poverty level or low income. These are students who are the lowest income. So what you see is that even though some folks want to say to us, we get criticized for our other programs, we're just jealous, really. But they criticize us and say that we're creaming off the top. We are not creaming off the top. Most of the students who are getting this qualify for Pell in a very high percentage. So if you look at Dixwell, 89% are Pell eligible. That's a huge indicator that most of those folks are low income. And if you look down this list, there isn't one neighborhood that falls under, and Westville, but that's 49%. So half of Westville, although most people would think, well, Westville is wealthy. Well, no, half those families in Westville qualify for Pell. So when we look at the public school, because remember, we only really serve kids in the public school, which is most of the kids in the city, what we see is that we have a city of incredible need. And this money is really going to support those families of incredible need so that those students have choice. So with that, I will stop and entertain questions.
First of all, thank you for that beautiful presentation. Before questions, I gotta acknowledge our treasurer, Gina Morrison, and our secretary, AKA. What? You? Other Edwards. You sure you wanna go here? Because we got space.
I'll stay here. I don't want to interrupt the flow.
Okay.
Well, and I will say that this, you know, as you take a look, the yellow represents under 60,000. And the red is 90,000. This represents 900. There are 300 who are not on here, but they do have degrees because we don't know what their income. They're not answer the question, so we don't know what their income. So there are 300 that are not on here, but that we will put on here in a different color.
Okay. I got a question.
Yes,
Are Catholic schools considered private schools,
yes.
even though they're not having kids and the families might not make that much money? You don't know?
They're still private schools. This is for public schools.
Okay.
Yeah.
I-
There's only, is this?
There's like 3 or 4, that's why I'm asking, it's only like 3 or
Yeah.
4 schools.
Mhm,
Because, you know, they still don't have kids, that's all.
mhm.
Questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Main question.
Yes,
So, what we do is, we provide like a small purse of money to different organizations, but I know we spoke before and you wanted to just come and present and make us aware of exactly what Neighbor Promise is doing. I think your presentation was excellent. Just
Thank
what are you asking us for? What do you need from us, other than support?
well, I was told to come present, that's what I did. But because this is your constituency, and, you know, one of the things that I said before is we don't really need, I mean, we're not like we are a small nonprofit, we only have 5 people. But we do need programmatic dollars to do our work, particularly on, I would say, the internship side. There's a lot of things that we need to still do there. So we do need to staff for that. And right now, all of our dollars are private dollars and individual dollars. We get no money from the state, which I don't understand. And we get no money from the city, which I do not understand. Now, we are applying to this fund. I think that's ARPA funds or something like that. So we are applying to that because we're, you know, again, one of the frustrations that I have is, you know, and this is what I've heard from the state, and we've been sort of cultivating the New Haven delegation, is that when folks talk about workforce development, they want to exclude this population, which I don't understand because they certainly squarely fall in that scope of dollars. So I really want you all to know so that you can advocate for us, because we need to get our fair share. If we don't, then we can't work with these young folks, right? Like I said, right now we work with 200, but we want to work with, you know, 800, and we have even more than that.
So my second question is, are you aware of community block grants?
I have heard of them and I'm interested. Tell me.
Nonprofit, I think you are.
Oh, okay.
So we need to look into that.
Okay. And what I will say is we really have been blessed because we've been able to focus. Many other Promise programs now follow our lead in terms of overall programming. I will again tell you some of the numbers. Like I just was reading an article today from Kalamazoo, and no other Promise program would put out their numbers. We put out our numbers because we're very proud of them. We do get criticism because folks want to say we're creaming. We're not creaming, you know, and that's another thing that, you know, I want you all to know, so that when folks want to take pot shots, you can sort of push back and say, well, let's just look at the data and see what the data says. So in looking at the data for Kalamazoo is half our size, but their city is pretty much black and white. They don't really have Hispanic folks, it's just black and white. And the Black graduation rate, take a guess. Now, you know what ours is from college. You know what ours is. They funded 9,000 students, $200 million. So what's the Black college graduation rate? Ours is 65%.
90?
Are you trying to say they're better?
45.
Is it?
19.
Wow.
That's what I meant, 19.
Did you say? Okay. So what, you know, and they have got incredible criticism, but what they had is they just thought money alone would get the job done. And that's just not true. When it comes to students who, and particularly the you know, public schools, urban schools, you know, those students come out underprepared. It's just a fact of life. So it's just going to take more wraparound services. So when when folks, I mean, we definitely have some challenges in our school district, but, you know, New Haven should be holding their head high because we have better numbers than anybody
Thank you. So,
for demographic stat, like we go head to head. And so, but we don't want to be at 60%. We want to be at 80%. You know, so, you know, we want to set the standard even higher, because I will tell you that the pandemic absolutely devastated the Black demographic. It's just devastated, and we have a lot of work to do to get that back. We didn't really have a lot of slippage with the Hispanic population, but the Black population, we got some serious problems. So we definitely need that money to do more programmatic work. And I would like to use all of these folks who want to come back and help their siblings. They're from like 2, 3, 4, 5 kid families. So they're committed, but you know, they're just not ready to step in and lead just right out of college. We have to work with them. We have to give them opportunity. So with that, I will be quiet and entertain any other questions.
thank you for that. Please keep that in mind.
Okay. I will be in touch.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Alderman Morrison?
Thank you.
Hello there, it's been a long time.
I know, and I'm gonna ask you the same question I asked you a lot of years ago. In your presentation, you talk about the residency requirement and all of that. But we have this small group of kids that go, they are a part of open choice. And you know, my daughter, like, we looked into Promise. She lives on Winchester Avenue. You see, what is it, 80% of the people in Winchester, that area, you know, is Pell eligible. She went to school in Cheshire, and we wanted to do Promise, and she was knocked out. She wasn't eligible. And
I know,
have you all made some changes? Because you all keep talking about children from New Haven. She's from New Haven. This option, and this is not just my daughter, I'm talking about all the children. This is an option of education that's put out there to all the New Haven school children. This is one that she chose, but she still lives at 130 Winchester Avenue. So has anyone, since our discussion about this, has anyone talked about this again? Because
no, they haven't.
I know, yeah, I don't think about those kids.
No, I'm not, I don't think that's a fair assessment to say that we don't think about those kids. You asked me if anyone
Yeah, well, what is it then?
talked about it.
Yeah.
I mean, these are, I can certainly explore with my board again. But, you know, all I can say, you know, this is very much how most Promise program run. Doesn't mean that we can do something different here, but we haven't. So I will bring it up again.
Do you think that's important? Because if you're gonna bring it up, I need you to feel it inside.
Listen, I advocated.
Versus,
I
hey, we
advocated.
got
I just
kids
didn't win that battle.
that go to school outside of town, but they live in the, if it's one of those, you might as well not bring it up because they're not gonna be sold on that. But if it's something that you really feel strongly, that every child that lives in the city of New Haven, regardless of school, should be given the opportunity for this money and all this programming. If you feel like that, then you should advocate. But if it's still something like, we need to take care of the kids that go to the schools and the buildings in this town, then when you get to that point, I want the application, because that program is also growing. We got more and more children that are going to school through that open choice. And so, again, they live in New Haven, and they already feel like outsiders in their own town. So this program makes them feel even more like an outsider, because kids talk to kids and they're a part of Promise, but this group of kids can't be a part of Promise. And that's not a good feeling.
Well, what I will say is, like what I got here, yes, you came to me, we tracked those numbers. Actually, those numbers shrunk and shrunk and shrunk and shrunk. They really did go down because it incentivized students to choose schools in New Haven. Yes, there was still a certain percentage that decided that, you know, I just can't do it. I'm sending my child to wherever.
Mhm.
Okay, so those numbers shrank quite a bit and then COVID hit. And I think that just sent it right back in the other direction. I don't have a pat answer. I can advocate because I'm really about the kids. Okay, so I will definitely look at it again and we'll look at it. I mean, we have a somewhat of a different board now. So, you know, we thought we'd never be funding, I mean, it's not our program, we just do it for Yale. But we thought we wouldn't have an HBCU, and here we have an HBCU. So it's a different time, different needs, particularly when we see Black students are really, really hurting. So we gotta come up with some new solutions. That's all I can say at this point.
Well, let me know
I will.
what comes from that conversation.
I will.
I mean, my daughter's long gone on.
I know, but I know you feel very passionate about this.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir. Who's next? Okay, so I don't want to take too much time, but the reason I asked for Catholic school, because my two kids did not qualify because they went to Catholic school.
Mhm.
Same thing as you, and the Catholic school was in New Haven, it wasn't in Cheshire. It was New Haven School too, just
Mhm.
for that's all. I have to say that in there, but my question is, do you fund 100% of the students that are qualified, or?
Yes, and the one who meets the requirements is,
100% of the school, students in New Haven that qualify?
Yes.
They do?
yes.
Tuition.
I mean, for tuition for the program.
Yeah, it's not really, we sort of decoupled it from tuition because it actually goes beyond tuition.
Yeah,
Because one of the things that, because we do bring so many millions to the table,
Yeah.
we've been able, or rather I've been able to negotiate additional guaranteed scholarship dollars. So for students who go to Quinnipiac or University of New Haven, if they get promised, they automatically get $25,000 on top of that, irregardless of income. And by the way, this is not a income-based program. It is based on earning promise. It's not based. So, you know, it's really about keeping families, and it has really kept families in the city.
what did that say? Isn't
Yeah.
that private?
Yes, it is.
I thought promise was only for state colleges.
No, but private colleges actually as well.
Really?
Our largest cohort now, our largest is University of New Haven. They've been quite aggressive.
When did
Yeah.
it start? Because at the beginning was only state colleges. If I'm
No,
not mistaken,
it's-
that's why so many people
Yeah.
went to UConn.
Well, our largest cohort is at UConn. We have close to 300 students there at UConn and about 200 at Southern Connecticut State University. For every student, Promise Scholar that qualifies for a Promise Scholarship who goes to UConn, they're guaranteed an additional $5,000. So they basically walk through the door with about $20,000. And then they still get even additional aid. Well, we don't have any guarantees in place at Southern, but it makes a huge difference. That's how most of our students come out with very little debt. And then in addition to the internship, because our scholars probably make anywhere from $5,000 to $6,000 in the summers. So by the time you add all that up, they're coming out with little to no debt. That's how they're able to just move right into starting to save
Okay,
for their homes.
thank you. And before I pass it on, like what my colleague said, take a look at the Catholic schools too in New Haven, because there's only like 2 or 3. There's not 20 students that will qualify there.
I know, it's not that many Catholic
Yeah,
schools.
so maybe just like my colleague said about outside, from New Haven, students outside, those schools are in New Haven and then New Haven kids too.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Okay.
Next up, E. Rodriguez.
Thank you. It's been a true pleasure to hear you. You're very captivating.
Can you talk into the mic, please?
You're very captivating in your presentation. If I were new and hearing about Promise, I'd want to know a whole lot more. I have a couple of questions, if I may, Jim.
Mhm.
The first one that I have is that you mentioned that New Haven has invested 29 million.
But that's direct scholarship. Actually, the investment is a lot higher. Like I said, we get multiple year grants from the Community Foundation, from Yale New Haven Hospital, and we have other fundraising that we've done over the years. So that's just direct money that has gone directly to families. So in direct scholarship dollars.
Okay, and in reference to monies like in kind
Yes.
or training where no actual effective cash or monies have been, but is there a number pursuant to that?
Well, yes, we do have a budget, like all of our 990s, and, you know, we've been a nonprofit. We were under the Community Foundation up until the end of 2015. Then I took the program into its own nonprofit status. So we have 990s, and we do have it right now, our sort of operating budget outside of the scholarship, because we don't, you know, it just passes through, it goes directly to tuition. Our budget is about 1.2 million is what our budget is. However, you know, we tend to underspend that because with multi-year grants, I have to make sure that we're going to have money. I don't want to lay anybody off and whatnot. So probably we've been operating about 800,000, but we're, you know, we have like 2 positions that I need to hire. Particularly, most of it has to do with the internship and the jobs placement, which we just, once again, cannot keep up with. We need more staff to be able to handle the volume and the demand, actually. So if you were to say, of that, you know, 1.2 million, how much of it is just dealing with this part, the placement and the internship and working and placing and sourcing and whatnot, I would say at this point in time, about a third to half of what we do is just focused on that because it's year round.
Thank you. I'm just trying to.
So that's about 500,000.
Yeah, I'm just trying to look at the involvement, if that does make an impact on the successfulness of the Promise program in comparison to other cities.
Mm-hmm.
If that has contributed to the success of our young scholars.
You know, when I look at, for instance, we have this national conference called PromiseNet. We hosted it in 2014, where all the Promise programs come together. And again, we really didn't see a whole lot of data out there, primarily because I'm pretty sure that they weren't having the success in making sure kids were completing college and coming out with little debt. So now Kalamazoo is putting their data out there. We've been putting our data out there the whole time. And so I would say, and I know for a fact that many of the programs actually don't have a talent part. They're just starting to get into that talent part when COVID hit and ARPA, and now it's all workforce development. So now everybody's in the game. But, you know, we don't have any data from them because they're so new to that game. We do have some data around, you know, kind of how much people are spending and what they're getting for their money. So for instance, Bob Jorth, who's the president of Kalamazoo, has shared, and it was really very much off record, that they've spent millions of dollars in 0-point GPAs. Now there's just no way that would fly here in New Haven. So, you know, again, it has to do with the programming, to support, to be working with students, making sure they're going through, you know, programs, going to early programs on the college campuses to make up for those deficits, you know, being in those really important summer programs, LEAP and things like that. So we work very closely in this sort of ecology, but again, it still means that we have to work one-on-one with these families, making sure that they're, you know, every kid has some sort of meaningful summer opportunity. So yeah, and there is a price for that. We can put a price on it. We're doing that analysis now, you know, like how much does it really cost to follow a student from, whatever, what's the total? Is it, $50 per student? Is it $5? What is it? So we're doing that analysis now.
And lastly, in terms of the open choice,
Mhm.
and I understand that the program was founded with the intent in mind that it be New Haven students.
Mhm.
But my question is the existing board and bylaws consistent upon review after a period of time to consider these viable changes in our school system in New Haven and to consider those students that should be part of this engagement? Thank you.
Well, yeah, we do have bylaws, and it is in the bylaws, the actual requirements of, our founding, whatever. So, again, the board really leaves it to me to bring issues or recommendations. And like I said, I give you my word that I will look into this.
Thank you.
And that's all I can
Thank you,
do.
Ms. Melton.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for your questions.
Thank you.
And the next one up with a question.
Yes.
Well, how many of these promise programs in the United States?
Oh, they are, it's hard to keep up.
Approximately, just to give us an idea.
I don't know, there could be 800 at 700, there are a lot. Now, there are promise programs, like for instance, that's a community college, which calls itself a promise program, which is really just a scholarship program. The distinction between a pure, yes, and there are purest promise program, is it really is focused on economic development, and it's sending kids to lots of colleges, not just one college. So it's not just a recruitment thing for one college. So if you were to say, those type of programs, maybe they're about 300. So, and I will give you examples: Pittsburgh Promise, Kalamazoo Promise, El Dorado Promise, us, Denver Promise, Denver Scholarship Program and whatnot. So there are the core group, which is really based on not just a scholarship wraparound and economic development.
Couple slides. If you can go 2 more slides.
Which way, about this one?
One more. Where the numbers are kind of skewed, really skewed between male and female. Did you ever look at that and why there are so many more females than males?
Yes, I think that's a systemic problem just with K through 12 urban schools in general. But if I can just be frank, I just don't feel that the district, has programming that really is supportive of males, particularly minority males. And so, one of the things that was really interesting when I came is, there were so many aspirations put on promise. We are not a school district. We do not have $400 million or 300 or whatever it is. What we do is we work in partnership. So what we saw, and it's probably true across the country in other urban areas, is that minority males were absolutely not being serviced in these school districts. And so by the time you get to college going, you already see the divide, right? And what we saw is that specifically when we just said, well, let's look at the data and see what we can see if there's anything we can do. And what we saw is that minority males, particularly Black males and some Hispanic males, were coming in with a GPA of 2.8, 2.7, just right under 3.0. So I went to my board and said, listen, we need to do passport. You can't say, if someone has a really bad freshman year, which is a problem at the New Haven Public Schools, so many kids come in and something's happening, jobs not getting done, and they come with a 1-point GPA. That kid's not going to qualify for promise. You can't go up to 3.0. That means they have to be hitting 3.6, 3.5, 3 point whatever. In addition to that, a lot of the minority kids are not taking AP and college courses, which bumps the GPA up. So there are a lot of things. I have opinions of how we can close, but no one's asking me my opinion. So I'm hoping that once again, in talking and with the new superintendent, that we can be more of a partner to sort of give our opinion about what needs to happen further down, because you're just not going to turn it around if systemically there are all these barriers that have disadvantaged males. And the passport, so we did say, let's do this passport where if a student has 2.5 to 2.9, they have that GPA and they, let's say things were just awful in the freshman and the sophomore year. If they're working hard and the district's working with them and they're trending up, they fall in there. As long as they do their 40 hours of community service, they're going to school, they can be in this pool. But I can tell you, in the last couple of years, we have been hard pressed to get applicants in that pool. Now, I know there are a lot of kids who are between 2.5 and 2.9. Why are we getting those applicants? So again, it takes a partnership. What I will say is we were able to increase our numbers when we brought in this passport program, and it was Black males in particular who were benefiting from this program. But again, when COVID hit, just the bottom fell out. We're in crisis now.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Next up, Alderman Douglas.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Can you just give me a little insight on, so the restriction, I'm trying to understand, the colleges that are in this program, you made a promise, only.
You mean state colleges?
Yeah,
within the state
just
of
in the
Connecticut?
state?
Yes.
Why is that? Do you think that'll ever expand? I mean,
No, I don't. Now, what I will say, this is what I will say. Okay, the modern day Promise program that was the first was Kalamazoo in 2000. I mean, like I said, they're 17. But there was actually the original Promise program that started in like 1900 something. It was this doctor in Oregon. And it was based on, he wanted to support that region of students. And that's what the scholarship was for. There were lots of others who said, well, why can't we send them outside of Oregon? He just felt very strongly that's what he wanted his money to do. So he said they struggled, and people were not happy. And then it's, well, why can't somebody else fund that? And guess what happened? Someone else did fund it. So they have 2 scholarships, one for whatever. So if I were to, let's say, look at the Pennington scholarship is another scholarship that Yale funds because they wanted to do that. That's what they want to do. And I mean, not to say it was Yale, but it is, everybody knows. And it had to do with these slavery entanglements. So, again, I think there's nothing to prevent. Why does it have to be Promise? It could be other funders. We have other major institutions, right? So I'm not saying,
So why don't we even break the mold? Why don't we break the mold?
There are other issues. I mean, for instance, when we did the research, because we did do the research around historical Black colleges. And as great as historical Black colleges, we all feel fuzzy and warm when we talk about historical Black colleges, very, very few New Haven kids graduate from those colleges. The performance is dismal. Now, it's a different culture. Folks think they're going to just arrive at Kumbaya, and many of those students flunk out, okay? And these are students who are good students. I mean, it was just too much of a culture shock. Now, what I will say is what we did was we researched to look at who had the highest, supports in place and whatnot, and so forth and so on, and we came down to our 6 that we thought would be great to invest in, and that's what we did. I mean, we really have to go from research and data. I'm not saying that there can't be a scholarship to send kids out of state. There are scholarships, that do it. But, I feel strongly that the way we're able to compete and to hold these kids, and we don't force them, once they have done their 48 hours of community service, their family can move out of the state. And we do have kids who do that, but they come back here and they go to school. So, I don't know, but I feel very strongly for us to have the impact that we need with them in terms of entering the workforce in a position of strength. We need them. They can have a very unique experience at UConn and go a year abroad and so forth and so on. There's still lots of choice right here in Connecticut.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, I just have to be honest.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any more questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think it's more a statement than a question to you. I commend you for what you're doing, because what we're doing is you are elevating our New Haven students to make that mark and then stay home, go to the schools here, and then they stay here, get a good job, and buy a home in New Haven. So in reality, we are economically growing in our city because you, okay, thank you. I appreciate you, because what you're doing is having them do community service, which helps the community. Then they become part of it. They know to be part of the city, not just because they're a student here in the New Haven school system, but now they're feeling invested. And so you're giving them, you're helping the parents that their children will again show their children what it is. And you're having first timers that are graduating colleges, high school, and then colleges. And many of the parents, perhaps not all of them, didn't get that opportunity, but you are giving. So I thank you and I commend you for that. And I, I like the fact that let's keep them here. Let them spend the money here. The parents can spend. And then when you're away in another state, you don't have family. So you get unbalanced. So I appreciate what you're doing for the students and for the city, because it's coming full circle. Because you're educating, they're jobbing, they're buying, and they're helping the economy. So thank you. I appreciate it. And I was at that Marcel, yes, and I appreciated your presentation. And I was one of the ones at Alta Douglas that said, bring it here. So those pin cushions meant a lot to me when I see Hill residents. When other folks think our children can't grow, they grow. Them pin cushions showed me a lot. And my son was one of the very first students that ended up in open choice. And when Mayor DeStefano came to speak in the community, I said, well, why can't mine? But I mean, it was, simply put to me, he's out of district. So I understood that, but I didn't, because I wanted to save for college. And so again, perhaps absolutely moving forward with that conversation would be great. But I had to understand back in whatever year my son went to, he graduated from Cheshire High School in 2005, and I understood because I did that open choice. So thank you for what you're doing, because it's coming full circle with our voting residents that are working, that are buying a home and getting a job here. So I appreciate you. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Any more questions? No? Thank you for coming.
Well, thank you. I thought this was only going to be 10 minutes. I love the fact that you all are so concerned.
Very informative, so thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
don't forget everybody to look at the map before
Oh,
you
yeah.
look
Yes.
at it. Take a picture of it and take it home to look at it.
Yeah, well, I will say one little thing,
Yeah.
that with the scholars, because we had all sorts of alums, and one of the things that we had not anticipated was they came and they found their dot, and they were so excited. They were just like, oh, that's my dot, that's my dot. So, yeah.
Mr. Chair, if I may,
Yes.
one of the other things, those presenters that were scholars that
More ladies,
Jordan Dalis, who's a New
it's
Haven
their
resident,
ranking.
the Hill, and so every one of those students, thank you profusely for what you've done to change their life. And that was excellent. So I'm gonna leave it at that, but I thank you for that presentation at the Marcel. Thank you.
Jose, Douglas, can you give me a quick favor?
I'm just saying that because it was in her ward.
No, yeah. We gotta continue, Jose.
Look at my
It's a youth-
picture.
it's a youth, yes, no, wait. It's a youth committee that's supposed to start at 7, so we could, let's continue. Can you put this somewhere so we could continue? Thank you, sir, appreciate it. Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you once again.
Now we're gonna go back to the donation requests.
Oh, I have.
Oh, no,
Oh,
it's time to do it. Okay, so I guess one of the donation requests left, right? The football guy, are you here for a donation? Church or seniors?
The church, the Congregational Church, Dixwell Senior Planning.
That's what I say, yeah.
It's,
Yeah. Come on down. Yeah. You, once you're all set, name and address for the record?
Rosalind Hamilton, well, for the record, Rosalind Hamilton McGraw. I use McGraw on the weekends. Rosalind Hamilton McGraw, 180 Curtis Drive, New Haven.
The floor is yours.
I've retired from city and then got called to Quinnipiac Valley to be health director for a while. But now I'm retired again and working intently at church. Dixwell Congregational had their 202nd anniversary. They're on their 3rd building. They're right across the courtyard from the Q House. Reverend Streets teaches, the Yale teaches in New York and a variety of places. The church has survived the pandemic. We've lost a lot of people. There was an elderly population in the congregation. I came back to Dixwell after the closing of Church of the Redeemer. I just want to say that there's a lot of physical concerns for people's health and people's mental well-being, and we see it all the time in the community. We see it in the neighborhood. We see it in the congregation, and so I've joined with Lorena Mitchell, who is your mental health initiative coordinator here for the city. And we're doing mental health gatekeeper, suicide prevention gatekeeper training. We've done 3 already for various ages. And we find that it's a lot of youth, people who work with youth, but then people who are seniors, grandparents, dealing with families that have moved back home. Now they have there's one person in the house, now you got a house full of people because they've all had to come back home and grandma's trying to, hang on and take care of everybody. So we want to give the grandparents as many support skills as they can get to take care, of their own mental health as well as, their children and grandchildren. So we did QPR, which is a training called Question, Persuade, and Refer. And it's an institute that has a training that's about a 2-hour training. And Marina and I kind of, tag team together on this training. And 3 sessions in, people are still asking for more trainings. People are talking about it. It's how do you talk to a person who has got issues and you think this person isn't right. Something they said just doesn't sound right, or their actions is just a little different, and you're wondering, is this person going to be all right? It might be, one of their kids or one of their colleagues or friends. If it's a friend, how do you deal with that? So a lot of people, were interested in asking questions. We had small group sessions, and a lot of the seniors wanted more of that. So we're probably getting ready to do more of that. And I don't mind volunteering, I'm retired. So the other thing is we had first aid. How many people know what to do if something happens? Who knows CPR in the community? How many people know? And there's a woman who works at Wilbercross, in the guidance office, and she's been training me and inner city outings, Sierra Club people for years, research and everything, in CPR and first aid. And I asked her, would she come and do one at the church? And we're on our fourth one. We're on our fourth session at CPR at the church. People want to know, all ages, young people, parents, all ages want to learn that. There's so many things that people need to know. A lot of them don't have the skills in terms of, the internet. And we took a group of people who were younger and knew the internet and helped up folks that are seniors how to come to church so they could attend church at home, and it would pop up on their TV. And that was a support. That just being able to know that they didn't have to come, they could just do it on the TV. That was another mental health support. So we want to keep this up, and the church is kind of growing, and people are starting to come back in. They don't have to wear masks, but they do sometimes wear masks, different ones. We're still losing people to various things. And COVID has complications that just will go on, and you won't know what it is. It'll be negative for COVID, but it'll be something else maybe related. So one of the things that I noticed is young people coming, young families are coming. They have youth activities once a week, once a month on like a second Sunday. And the families come to support their young people. And then the young people support each other once they're in there and befriending each other. And then they want to help the elders. So we have a pretty good connection. And they move out. We've adopted Hannah Gray home. And we do gifts and visits with Hannah Gray. Different family members in the church have kind of adopted different people who live in Hannah Gray. We've done food, and instead of just doing our own food bank, we give food to Christian Community Action, Bonita Grubbs, and we also give it to Derek to help because they have so many people coming over there. So a lot of times there are all these different churches, but everybody doesn't have to, create something on their own. So, we've been going out, meeting with some of the other pastors around and say, how can we collectively do things in this community to help out? And, they've had the Children's Creative Arts Center for a long time, and we haven't had that for years, but, we're looking into it. How do we get that back? And then for seniors, Judge Graves, who's just retired, Clifton just retired, and he is a moderator at the church. And he's been bringing the new judge in, and we've been having discussions with the probate judge. And do you know how many people are interested in knowing before it becomes a crisis in their own family? They want to know, what do we need to know? How do we do this? How do we need to set up? And it's very popular. We've done some at our church. We've done some at the Dixwell Seniors. And he is, interested in continuing. As long as we can keep, the judge involved. It's better to have people know in advance than come there in crisis, So we want to keep that going. Anybody questions?
Any questions? No questions? No. Thank you.
Thank you.
What the anonymous of the furlough?
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else for request here? I think he left.
I think I saw Mr. Boyd.
Oh, that's right. Come back real quick. Thank you for cash. So you requesting for the donation?
Yes.
Oh, you said everything with that.
Start with that. I didn't start with that. But yes, we're requesting a donation.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Now,
Now
a
we'll say,
donation would be helpful. $100 would be great.
now we'll say, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Be back. I think the guy from the football order left, right?
Yeah,
Right?
he was here.
Oh. The donation guy, did he leave?
Yes, he did.
Who?
The pop order?
I guess.
Well, I can tell you what's going on.
They called.
Can you quickly? So we-
Yes, very quickly.
In the interest of time, we're gonna skip
Yeah,
a
they
few
called
items.
an emergency meeting, mandatory, so that's why he had to leave for the Pop Warner football. And it's a group of children,
Oh, yeah.
you can.
No, right, you're doing
Um,
fine.
6-year-olds, 5 and 6-year-olds, children about 15 to 20, and these fathers that work and volunteer, and they're having an event on Friday and to give awards, especially for the families that have been coming every year. And so that's why they need the funding, so that they can be able to buy food and to pay for some of the cost of the trophies and the things that they're gonna give. But they are very active, they are working. I myself have witnessed the volunteer efforts that these parents do put, especially the coaches that are working and the things that they do beyond the call of duty to mentor and to have these these children, and working with the families.
No, I think we all know.
And they do service the children, not only in one ward, but throughout the city.
Thank you for that presentation.
Thank you.
We all know about Paul Warner, he was just here. Okay,
We're
anybody
requesting a
else?
donation for this Friday, if it's possible, 300.
Okay, so any more donation requests? No? The other two, we're gonna leave it for next month, right? Make sure you call. Okay, so let's take care of that right now. Do we have a motion? We can move and vote together. No? We'll pop them in.
Yeah, Pop is the
Okay,
baseball.
That was baseball, that was baseball, this is football.
Just for clarification, thank you.
Actually, yeah, the other. Okay, so in the interest of time, do we need a motion all together?
I make a motion that we, I don't even have
Just say it.
the
Pop Warner and the Dixwell Senior.
okay, the Pop Warner and the Dixwell Church, Congregational Church, for the senior program workshops. I make a motion that we, award both organizations $300 each, to support their endeavor.
Second.
Move a second, any discussion?
No, pretty much we discussed.
Well, I don't know how to run the meeting, so.
If I may share a little bit about,
Hold on,
the church
you haven't been acknowledged yet.
I'm sorry, I thought you did.
Yeah, okay, you have discussion now. Go ahead.
Thank you. In reference to the workshops, I myself have participated in first aid and CPR workshops, and I know that they can be very, very helpful. So I think it's a great idea that the church has individuals, volunteers that are willing to take this on and to educate and to have these workshops for elderly and other individuals. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any more discussion? No? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Against, stay? Donations are granted. Okay, next, Juneteenth, I guess Juneteenth is,
Juneteenth.
okay. I was gonna be brief, but. go ahead.
So, Juneteenth, at the last meeting, we, voted to, provide support to the, Dixwell Q House for the Juneteenth, program. This is the flyer that they made before they got our logo, but there is another flyer that has our logo on it. And we had already voted to provide them with $300 support. So can I see that for a second?
Yes.
So, Juneteenth is over this weekend, Father's Day weekend. And so, on the 16th, as noted here, they're having an event for just men in regards to, making wings and sauce and all of that. And then on the 17th, which is Saturday, they're honoring all fathers from 9 to 11 with breakfast. And so anyone that wants to go to the breakfast, any man that wants to go to the breakfast is free. You just have to sign up. And then, and that's from 9 to 11. And then there's family time, which will have food trucks out there along with old school games, and they'll have a movie night. And that'll go from 5 to 10. So I gave them the check, and this is gonna help for the movie night part. They said that they're gonna take that amount to pay for the licensing that it costs to have a movie outdoors.
Thank you. Is that it?
That's it.
Any questions? No questions? Thank you. Let's move along. Okay, the gala. Gala is gonna be brief. It's gonna be again October 26th. And I guess the voting is gonna be electronically. Tomorrow, I think Alder Edwards, she leaves? I think she got the other youth committee that we all overlap. So it's gonna be, I think the vote for the honorees, I think it's gonna be by, via email. She's gonna do that early tomorrow. Anything else you want to go to?
Oh, no, I didn't know that's what she was gonna.
Yeah.
We need to get that.
No, yeah, she's here. She's, okay. So no discussion or questions? Beautiful. Any other new business? No? Okay. Well, everybody knows they have paid the dues. And I guess the next meeting date is July 12th. What's that?
Financial report is here, people can read. it.
Oh, no, we already, I asked, I gave them a few minutes to take over.
Oh.
So, okay, motion to adjourn?
I make a motion.
A second.
1 second, discussion? No? All in favor, say aye?
Aye.
Yes? Same? We adjourn.
See, Roger, stay here.
Oh, did I hope I didn't erase this, right? I usually stop. So,
Yeah, that's fine.
okay.
You go to 2 o'clock.
All
Yeah,
right,
you
yes.
got keys.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you very much.
Good night.
Oh, yes, I will take a picture right now.
Yeah, please.
I saw that for Haven.
Mira,
I only got the most.
All the documents.
Sorry, Bobby.
She's tonight.
Sorry. Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, I'm going home. Actually, I gotta go through that.
Todo bien.
Yeah. You're son with the check. When did she graduate? 2018.
Okay, mine started, he was one of the first administrators that started when they did that pilot program.
Thank you, thank you so much.
What happened? The group of
5:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
that's where people jump to the house. And I've been trying to, yeah, so I took my friends, the whole